My brother didn't just betray me, he erased me. He took my idea, my savings, my name from the contract. And then he smiled at me across the dinner table, like I should be proud of him. They say blood is thicker than water, but no one tells you what to do when your own blood decides you're disposable. I never screamed. I never fought him. I just waited. And when I finally moved, I didn't just take my future back. I rewrote his. If you love slow-burn revenge stories where silence is louder than rage, where betrayal comes from the people closest to you, and where patience becomes the deadliest weapon, you're in the right place. This channel is built for those who understand one thing: the quiet ones don't lose, they calculate. So before we begin, take 1 second to like this video, subscribe, and join this growing community, because the best revenge stories, they're just getting started. Now, let me tell you how my own brother stole my future and how I made sure he never saw it coming. We grew up in a house where the paint was always slightly peeling and the lights flickered every time someone used the microwave. 2 boys, 1 small bedroom, 1 shared future. My brother was always louder, more confident, the kind of guy who could walk into a room and own it within minutes. I was the opposite. Quiet, observant, the one who noticed patterns no one else cared about. He talked about success. I studied how to build it. The startup idea didn't come from ambition. It came from necessity. Our father's small business had collapsed the year before. Debt collectors had started calling at night. I still remember hearing my mother whisper in the kitchen, thinking we were asleep. "We'll figure it out," she said. But her voice didn't sound convinced. That's when I started building the prototype. Late nights, free software, cheap coffee, a second-hand laptop that overheated if I pushed it too hard. I didn't tell anyone for months, not even him, because deep down I wanted one thing that was mine. But one night, around 2 a.m., he walked into our room and saw the screen glowing in the dark. "What's that?" he asked too quickly. "Nothing," I said, too quickly. He sat on my bed anyway, watched, asked questions, and for the first time I saw something different in his eyes. Interest, not teasing, not dismissal, respect. "You built this?" he asked. "Yeah." He whistled softly. This could actually work. That sentence hit harder than any compliment I'd ever received. For the next few weeks, we worked side by side. I coded, he brainstormed branding ideas, marketing angles, names. He talked about pitching investors, scaling fast, getting media coverage. I talked about stability, testing, infrastructure. He laughed once and said, "You think small." I didn't argue. But inside, I thought, no, I think long-term. The small subplot no one talks about? He had recently taken out a personal loan, supposedly to help Dad stabilize things. I didn't question it. I wanted to believe him. But sometimes I'd see overdue payment notifications flash on his phone. He never explained, and I never asked. We started spending more time together again, like when we were kids building imaginary empires out of cardboard boxes. Except this time, the empire felt real. One evening, while reviewing projections, he leaned back and said, "When this blows up, we're getting Mom out of this house." That did it. That sealed my trust. Because this wasn't about ego anymore. It was about family. But there were moments, small ones, that I ignored. Like when he started asking for access to the back-end accounts, just in case. Like when he insisted on being the one to handle external emails. Like when he said, "Let me do the talking. You're better behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. I told myself that was fine. I didn't need attention. I needed results. Still, late at night, staring at the ceiling, I'd think, what if this changes him? Then I'd answer myself immediately. He's your brother. Stop overthinking. The breakthrough came faster than expected. Early beta users loved the product. Feedback was strong. Engagement numbers were climbing. He started smiling more. dressing sharper, taking more calls outside. I thought it was ambition. I didn't see it was positioning. The night before our first serious investor meeting, we sat in silence in our childhood room. Same cracked walls, same flickering light. "You trust me, right?" he asked suddenly. I didn't hesitate. "Of course." He nodded slowly. "Good, because things are about to move fast." I remember that moment clearly, not because of what he said, but because of what I felt. A small, quiet discomfort in my chest, like something shifting. I ignored it, because when you build something with someone you've shared your whole life with, you don't imagine they're already calculating a future without you. And that was the night everything truly began. Not the company, not the success, the shift. And I had no idea yet that I had just handed him more than my idea. I had handed him leverage. Opportunities don't knock loudly. Sometimes they slip in quietly, wearing a suit. The investor meeting was set up through one of my brother's connections. He seemed unusually confident that week. Too confident. "You just focus on explaining the product," he told me. "I'll handle the rest." The meeting went better than I expected. The investor liked the traction, loved the scalability, asked sharp questions about infrastructure, questions I answered. But when it came to equity structure and ownership, my brother smoothly stepped in. "We'll finalize the paperwork internally," he said with a calm smile. I didn't think twice. After all, we were a team. Or so I thought. A few days later, he told me the investor wanted to move fast. "Good news," he said, walking into our room with that same confident grin. "They're ready to fund." I should have felt pure excitement. Instead, I felt pressure. "What about the contracts?" I asked. "Already handled. Standard stuff. We'll clean it up after the transfer." Already handled. The phrase lingered. "Shouldn't I review it?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He laughed lightly. "You don't trust me?" That hit harder than it should have. Of course I trusted him. He was my brother, right? The money came in a week later. Real money. More than we had ever seen. He celebrated, called friends, talked about next steps, but something felt off. When I asked for access to the updated legal documents, he said he'd send them later. Later turned into days, then weeks. One night, while he was in the bathroom, his laptop lit up with an email notification. Subject line, "Updated shareholder agreement. Final." I wasn't trying to snoop, but the title didn't include my name, just his. My stomach tightened. I told myself I was overthinking. Still, I opened it. Scrolling, reading, trying to process what I was seeing. Founder and majority shareholder, his name. Operational consultant, mine. Consultant. No equity percentage next to my name. No voting rights. No ownership clause. My breathing slowed, not from calmness, but from shock. There was no space for my signature, because I wasn't required to sign. He came out of the bathroom as I closed the laptop. "You went through my email?" he asked, not angry, controlled. I looked at him, really looked at him. "Why am I listed as a consultant?" He didn't answer immediately. He sat down, exhaled. "This is temporary," he said. "Investors feel safer when there's one clear decision maker." One? You're not good under pressure. This protects the company. Protects us. Not protects us. Protects him. "I built the core system," I said quietly. "And I made it fundable." There it was. Not denial, not apology, just justification. In his mind, he hadn't stolen anything. He had optimized. I felt anger rise, but it didn't explode. It cooled, condensed. "You should have told me." He shrugged slightly. "You would have overreacted." The silence between us felt heavier than any argument. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. He didn't think he betrayed me. He thought he upgraded himself, and I had helped him do it. When I went to bed that night, I stared at the ceiling again. Only this time, the discomfort in my chest wasn't small. It was clarity. I hadn't lost my future yet, but I had just learned something important. Trust without leverage is vulnerability, and I would never make that mistake again. I didn't confront him again immediately. Not because I was scared, but because I needed to see how far he would go. The shift happened quietly. In public, he started introducing the company as his startup. At first, it was just an idea I had, he told one of his friends during dinner. I was sitting right there. He didn't even look at me. I waited for him to correct himself. He didn't. Later that night, I said, "You forgot something." "What?" he asked casually. "The part where we built it together." He didn't even pause. "Don't be dramatic." Dramatic, that word again, like my contribution was emotional, not structural. When our parents found out about the funding, they were proud in a way I had never seen before. My mother cried. My father shook his hand twice. Twice. "You've done something big," my father said. I stood beside them, invisible. "He helped too," my brother added lightly, patting my shoulder. Helped. Like I carried boxes, like I made coffee. That night, I finally spoke up. At the dinner table, in front of everyone. "I'm not a consultant," I said calmly. "I built the platform." The air changed instantly. My mother's smile faded. My father frowned slightly. "Why are you making this a problem?" "I'm not making it a problem. It already is." My brother leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, relaxed, prepared. "Tell them," he said. "Tell them you wanted to delay the deal. Tell them you weren't ready." "That's not the point." "It is the point," he replied. "I took the risk. I made the call. And removed me." Silence. My mother finally spoke. "Your brothers, don't let money ruin this." Money. It wasn't about money. It was about ownership, about respect, about erasure. But they didn't see that. Or maybe they didn't want to, because success had already chosen its favorite. That night, my father pulled me aside. "Sometimes leadership requires hard decisions. Your brothers stepped up." Stepped up. So that's how they framed it. Not betrayal, leadership. I realized something in that moment. This wasn't just about contracts anymore. This was about narrative, and he was winning it. I stopped arguing after that, not because I agreed, but because I understood the battlefield. At home, he was the successful son, the decisive one, the provider. And I was the sensitive one, the overthinker, the problem. Late that night, I sat alone in our old bedroom, staring at the same cracked ceiling. I replayed every line he had said, every small shift in language, every moment I handed him control, thinking it was teamwork. I felt anger, then humiliation, then something cooler. Clarity. If I kept fighting him emotionally, I would lose, because he had something I didn't: visibility. So I made a decision. I wouldn't compete for validation. I wouldn't beg for recognition. I wouldn't try to fix the story he was telling. I would build a new one, quietly. The next morning, I stopped going to the office. When he asked why, I said, "You've got it handled."
He smirked slightly. "Don't be like that." "I'm not," I replied. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't hurt. I was observing. Family had chosen stability over fairness, perception over truth. And that's when I understood something powerful. If you can't win inside the house, you build something so strong outside that the house starts to shake. That was the day I stopped being his younger brother and started becoming his future problem. I didn't announce my exit. I simply became less available, less present at meetings, less responsive in group chats, less visible in photos he posted online. At first, no one noticed. Then they stopped asking. He stepped fully into the spotlight. Interviews, networking events, conference panels. His face started appearing in industry blogs. He talked about his journey, about his resilience. I watched from a distance, not emotionally, strategically. When you build the foundation of something, you understand its weak points better than anyone else. I knew where the code was rushed. I knew which systems were patched instead of rebuilt. I knew which promises were made to investors that relied on future fixes. He built fast. I had built carefully. There's a difference. The small cracks didn't show immediately. Growth covered them. Revenue masked them. Momentum distracted everyone. But I saw the stress signs early. Customer complaints that seemed minor. Support tickets increasing in frequency. Server strain during peak usage. He expanded before stabilizing. And expansion without stability is ego disguised as ambition. I started mapping everything quietly. Market gaps, unaddressed features, feedback users had given that he dismissed because it slowed scaling. He was chasing valuation. I was studying sustainability. Financially, I had almost nothing. The payout structure left me with scraps. My savings were thin. I moved into a smaller apartment, cut expenses, and took freelance development work at night. No one saw that part. They saw his growth. They didn't see my reconstruction. Some nights were heavy, not with sadness, but with pressure. The kind that tightens your chest at 3 a.m. when the room is silent and doubt tries to crawl in. What if he's right? What if I wasn't built for leadership? What if I'm just better behind the scenes? Those thoughts came, but they didn't stay. Because every time I reviewed the original architecture I designed, I remembered something simple. I understood the system deeper than he ever could. And systems reward depth. Months passed. His company grew aggressively. New hires, bigger office, louder branding. But I noticed something else. He was reacting more than leading, fixing problems publicly, reassuring investors, posting motivational quotes about pressure making diamonds. Pressure does make diamonds. It also exposes fractures. I began rebuilding the product from scratch. Not a copy, an evolution. Cleaner infrastructure, scalable backend, automated redundancies, user-first updates. No noise, no announcements, just execution. The more invisible I became socially, the sharper I became technically. People assumed I was bitter. I wasn't. Bitterness is loud. I was quiet. And quiet gives you time. Time to refine. Time to position. Time to wait for momentum to shift. Because momentum always shifts. You just have to survive long enough to see it. By the end of the first year, his company looked impressive from the outside. From the inside, it was accelerating faster than its foundation could support. And I was almost ready. Not to attack, but to arrive. Disappearance is powerful. When people think you're gone, they stop preparing for you. And that's when you become dangerous. 2 years. That's how long it took. 2 years of rebuilding in silence. 2 years of refining every weakness I once watched grow inside his company. 2 years of choosing patience over pride. When I launched, I didn't announce it loudly. No dramatic post, no emotional caption, no passive-aggressive message, just a product. Cleaner interface, stronger backend, built-in solutions for the very complaints his users had been voicing for months. I didn't target his customers directly. I positioned myself where frustration already lived. Early adopters came quietly. Then referrals started. Then industry blogs began comparing features. The comparisons weren't emotional, they were technical. And technically, mine was better. His company responded the way fast-growing companies usually do when threatened. Discount campaigns, aggressive marketing, public statements about innovation leadership. But something had changed. This time, I wasn't the one playing defense. Investors began asking him about retention rates. Users began asking about feature parity. Developers began writing reviews that mentioned performance instability. None of it was catastrophic, but it was consistent. And consistency reshapes perception. The first major partnership offer I received came from a firm that had previously declined us, back when us still existed. They said they were impressed with the architecture. That word, again, architecture, the foundation he once minimized. As my growth stabilized, his started fluctuating, not collapsing, just unstable. Momentum had shifted. Then, one night, my phone rang. His name. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't arrogant. It was measured. "You've been meaning to talk to me." "Of course you have." "You've built something solid," he said. That was the first time he acknowledged it directly. Solid. Not cute, not small, not emotional. Solid. There was a pause. "You're pulling market share," he added. Not accusing, just observing. I didn't deny it. Silence can confirm more than words. "We could combine forces again," he said finally. "Fix what happened. Be smarter this time." Fix what happened. Interesting choice of words. I looked around my apartment, still modest, still simple, but mine. Every contract had my name. Every percentage was protected. Every clause reviewed twice. I wasn't rebuilding anymore. I was established. "I'm not interested in merging," I said calmly. Another pause. This one heavier. "You're doing this on purpose," he said. That almost made me smile. No, I wasn't doing it to hurt him. I was doing it to outgrow him. "There's room in the market for both of us," I replied. Professional, neutral, controlled. He exhaled slowly. For the first time since this began, he sounded uncertain. And that's when I knew. I hadn't taken anything from him. I had simply removed the advantage he once had over me. And without that advantage, we were finally playing on equal ground. Except now, I was prepared. We met in person a week later. Not at home, not at the office. A neutral place. Quiet cafe. Late evening. Low lights. Almost empty. He arrived first. I noticed something immediately. He looked tired. Not physically weak, just mentally stretched. The kind of tired that comes from holding control too tightly for too long. For a moment, we just sat there. Two brothers. Two founders. Two completely different versions of ambition. "You've grown," he said finally. It wasn't a compliment. It was an assessment. "So have I," I replied. He gave a short nod, no smile. "I underestimated you." That one was honest. I didn't rush to respond. Silence has weight. I let it sit between us. You could have confronted me publicly, he continued. You could have told investors the truth. I could have, I said. Why didn't you? Because destruction is loud, but dominance is quiet. Instead, I said, it wouldn't have changed anything. He leaned back, studying me like I was a new variable in an old equation. He did what he thought was necessary, he said. The company needed a clear leader. And you decided that couldn't be me. You hesitated. I calculated. Another silence. This one's sharper. You're hurting my company, he said more directly now. No, I answered calmly. Your structure is. That landed. He looked away briefly. For years, he controlled the narrative. The family saw him as the decisive one. The investors saw him as the face. The world saw him as the founder. Now he was sitting across from the part he tried to erase. And it didn't disappear. We could still fix this, he said again, softer now. Be brothers. That word felt different coming from him. Brothers. I held his gaze. I never stopped being your brother. You stopped being mine the day you removed my name. He didn't interrupt. You didn't just take equity, I continued. You rewrote the story. You made me optional. His jaw tightened slightly. I didn't destroy you, I said. I didn't expose you. I didn't attack you. That's not mercy, he replied. No, I said. It's independence. Another long pause. Then he asked the question that mattered most. So what happens now? I stood up slowly. Now, I said. Now, we compete. Not with anger, not with revenge in my voice. Just reality. As I walked out of that cafe, I didn't feel victorious. I felt balanced. For the first time since the contract incident, the weight in my chest was gone. Because this was never about taking him down. It was about never being erased again. At the next family dinner, the energy was different. He didn't dominate the conversation. I didn't need to speak loudly. Respect had shifted. Not because they chose me, but because I no longer needed them to. He rewrote my future once. He thought he removed me from the story. What he didn't understand was simple. I learned how to write my own. And once you control the pen, no one can edit you again.
Betrayal from strangers hurts, but betrayal from family reshapes you. Sometimes revenge isn't loud, it isn't violent, it isn't dramatic. Sometimes revenge is growth. Sometimes it's discipline. Sometimes it's becoming so strong that the person who betrayed you can no longer reach you. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Because sometimes the quietest people write the coldest endings. See you in the next video.